Broadcasting from Silicon Valley, California, this is Conversations with Jennylyn.
Thank you for watching Conversations with Jennylyn. And as I continue this COVID-19 series, I could not exclude my beautiful girlfriend, Loretta. Loretta Beavers, my guest today, is a community volunteer and has done a phenomenal amount of work for the community in which she lives. And I'm very happy to share her with you. And I'm sure she will tell us about some of her community projects that she has done and how COVID-19 is affecting she and her husband while they are on quarantine. Loretta, thank you for joining Conversations with Jennylyn.
Well, Jennylyn, thank you for having me. I don't know that I feel as special as some of the guests that you've had, but everyone's got a story, so here I am.
Just like Black Lives Matter, every life matters, and every one of my guests have been equally special, as are you.
Well, thank you.
So tell us, what has Loretta been doing during COVID-19 quarantine?
Mostly staying at home. We don't go out very much. Sometimes, like to the backyard, but not around very much. Keith will go out shopping maybe once a week. I have occasionally done errands. There's actually a gaming shop near me that does curbside service. And I have put together a Dungeons and Dragons role-playing game for my siblings and nibblings, which has been fun to put together. But mostly it's been chores, a little bit of, cleaning up around the house, and I've got a cat.
Oh, that's really great. And I know that you've been very active in the community, both you and your husband, Keith. So what is that like now? Have you been able to do any of it virtually?
Some of it, yes. We have done at least one episode of Keith Explains virtually. We help a friend out on his community access show, John Wants Answers, and we've done those virtually over Zoom. And even Democratic Television, which my husband produces, we've managed to put together where he'll have the host from the local Democratic National Party and one of the guests, just talk on Zoom, and we've managed to edit that together and put it together pretty well. One of the other things that I've been able to do is I've signed up with I guess it's an activist group called Vote Forward, where they try to make sure that people are registered to vote and encourage them to vote. And so I write letters. They have a mostly filled out letter format. And I will write letters and send them to people who are eligible to register to vote, but have not yet registered to vote. And it includes a registration form and instructions. And there's also letters to encourage people to vote, which we need to save up until before the election. And I think they're working on helping people learn how to vote by mail as well, learn how to sign up for absentee voting.
So for my viewers, do you want to share a little bit about Keith Explains so they know what you're referring to?
My husband is a very funny gentleman. He's a nerd, and he explains things in a very kind of funny way, generally. He will talk about normal events in life very humorously, like getting his hair cut since he has kind of thinning hair on top, working on cleaning out the house because we have so much stuff, and he'll just tell it in a really charming and funny manner. And so in the past, in the before times, we had a show with our local community access television station, which is awesome because anyone can have a TV show, and it's great equipment. And we would have a live studio audience come in, and we would just tape the show and keep monologues for like half an hour in front of the audience, and they laugh. And then he puts it up on, the station airs it because they get first dibs, and then he puts it up on the internet after it's aired on the station. And it's just really funny. I mean, people, it's hard to define. We've tried entering it in various video contests, and it's just hard to find the right category for it because it's not traditional comedy. But it's very funny, and it's keithexplains.com.
Yeah, could you just tell people where they can find it if they want to check out Keith's humor? Why don't you leave a link so they can hear it?
They can go to keithexplains.com, or you can look for Keith Explains on YouTube, since he's got a lot of his shows up, edited up on YouTube. And he'll do other funny things. It's usually kind of a dry sense of humor. The other thing he has is he has a placebo business where he got tired of all the spam that he would get for, male enhancement. And so he made a fake male enhancement thing, but it's because it's essentially candy. He makes sure to mention that too, that, it's really just kind of an ego enhancement thing. It doesn't actually do anything. We've had to explain to people from other countries, it's not medicine, it's just candy. It can't actually affect, your maleness in any way, shape, or form. It just helps your ego feel better.
I got in trouble with one of those.
Yes. That's part of the joke, though, really, is to that, because it is such a delicate subject to some folks, that it's a way to kind of prank people and make things a little more interesting in their lives. We've had people order them for friends, and then the postal carrier is trying to cover up the box so that you can't see the large type of the very descriptive company name on the sides of the box, and it's pretty funny.
Well, I remember one night you guys had some at the television station, and I thought it was so funny when I found out what it was. I brought a bottle home and kept it in my nightstand with my pills, forgot about it. And one time I wasn't feeling well, and I set my daughter in the drawer to get me some Tylenol or something. And she comes down with the jar and goes, "Mom, what is this?" What are you doing with this? I'll never forget that. I told her it's not real. It's a gag. I kept it as a gag gift. I don't know if she believed me, but it was really embarrassing the way she approached me with it. So it's a lot of fun, people. If you're looking for a really good gag gift, go to Keith's website and buy it. So Keith also works for Apple, right, Loretta?
Keith works for Apple, yes. He has been, in the before times, he was actually in Apple Park, the big new building that they built in Cupertino, the big ring. People are not allowed into the ring. They did last summer have like a month where you had to sign up to have the family come, and they like block off most of everything, but you could see the park on the inside. Wow. The cafeteria, and the entrance part to the Steve Jobs Theater, but not the actual theater itself. So that's the only time I've been inside Apple Park, because otherwise it's employees only, and you have to have a business meeting. You cannot just go.
Oh, really?
That's why they have the visitor center. And so the visitor center is handy, where they have iPads that can give you sort of a virtual reality or augmented reality kind of experience going inside it. But no one gets to go in. They're very secretive. But now he works at home.
Wow. How long has he been with Apple, Keith?
Since 1989.
Wow, long time.
Very long time.
And in those many years, this is the first time he's been home as long working from home. Is that true?
Actually, that is true. In the early days, they gave people a sabbatical every X number of years, and so he was home for 6 weeks. And at that point, we hadn't figured out how to coexist in the house together, so that was very difficult. But now this has been much longer than 6 weeks. So, and we've figured things out since then. So, we each do our own things, and we try not to get into each other's hair very much, while he works. because
We're
you know
hearing
that's
that we're hearing that from a lot of couples. And you know what? Surprisingly, as I've gone around the world and spoken to people, the one thing that I'm learning is they actually like working from home because
oh
they
yeah,
have to get dressed and go sit in traffic and drive a car and fill it with gas and deal with bad drivers. So they're telling me, I think I like working from home. Does Keith feel
Keith
the
was
same
yeah.
way?
Keith likes working from home. He does miss the office though. He actually was lucky in that when we bought this house, he stuck a pin in the Apple building he was working at the time, and he drew a circle around it to kind of pick an area where to live. So he actually is within walking distance of Apple Park. And indeed, it's just as easy for him to walk from our house to Apple Park as for him to drive to the parking lot and then walk from that parking lot to his office in Apple Park, because it's pretty much the same distance from the parking lot to his office as it is from our house to his office.
Right.
So he'll either bike or he'll walk, and it's super convenient for him. But he does like being able to wear sweatpants every day. I'll ask him when he has meetings, and because he works, even past normal work hours, and I'll ask him when he's got meetings, and sometimes we'll spend a little couple time together.
That's awesome. And I've known you and Keith for a long time, and you guys give a lot back to the community. I know that Keith has run many marathons.
Not marathons. He's done fun runs. His dream someday is to run a marathon. He's only done half a marathon.
Okay.
But he's trying to work up to it.
Okay, and he's donated blood on a regular basis.
Yes.
You guys do a lot within the community that you live. Do you want to share some of the community projects that you've both worked on over the years?
Okay, I mean, Keith tends to have bigger bandwidth for community activity than I do. He is on 2 homeowners association boards. He has been on the board of our local credit union. We feel credit unions are superior to banks because we, the people, own them, as opposed to a corporation. So the credit union is responsible to us, and anyone can apply to be on the board. You just have to show up to meetings and show an interest. He has been on the board of the Library Foundation and Friends for our city library. He was on the planning commission for several years for the city. I was on the cultural commission for the city of Santa Clara for several years, putting on events like concerts in the park, which can't happen this year, and art competitions and international exchange and things like that. We've volunteered for the Sister Cities Association. What else? Some other little groups, and of course the television station. I actually really like voting. I found out some 10-15 years ago that I am blessed to have a patriot ancestor, and so to me participating in our democracy is extremely important. So I encourage voting, and I work at polling places so that I can help people vote. So I'm always encouraging people to register to vote, and where they can find information to get more research done about how they vote, and to vote. While I do have personal political preferences, I don't want to impose them on everyone else, because I want democracy to work best, and it works best when we all get to vote.
Let's hope it works this year.
I hope so too. So vote.
Yeah.
Vote.
Yes.
Register. Check your registration, because computer systems can be fallible, and vote.
Mm-hmm. And how have you seen your community affected by this pandemic?
Well, I see Santa Clara is very blessed to have a very diverse community. I know that some, I guess, American-born parents are more likely to want to keep their kids in the backyard, or have like set groups of activities, which has not been possible for them to do. The families across from me are not American-born parents, and so they actually let their kids ride their bikes and play a little bit out in the private street that we live on. So they have a way to work off some of that energy. I have been seeing them social distance. but I know this is extremely trying. I do have a neighbor that has, you know, a toddler, and the toddler just doesn't understand that they have to stay home and away from people all the time. And so, you know, they get really pent up, and like, you know, there's a meltdown every afternoon. I just feel so bad because, you know, the kids don't understand that we have to try to, you know, keep safe for, you know, not just ourselves, but for the others in our community. And then, you know, the parents have to try to explain to someone who doesn't understand that, you know, you have to keep safe for the whole community. It's just, it's really tough for families.
It is, especially because the numbers are high in Santa Clara, right?
Well, in the county, yes.
Yeah, the county, but not.
I mean, I think we're have been one of the hot spots, and early on, because we do have such a diverse community. A lot of people come from other countries, Asia, Europe, and so there's been a lot of, you know, traveling, and that's something that is more likely to spread the virus. And especially early on, when we didn't know much about the virus, the county had more cases. I mean, now we've been eclipsed by other bigger counties, but there's still a lot because we're a very diverse county with people from all over the world, and it's an amazing place.
Well, Loretta, you're exceptionally intelligent. And I know this because you and we have our little get-togethers, and I always leave my time with you inspired. What do you see happening in terms of normal, or what we used to know as normal, going forward?
I think people are tired of being kept inside. And I think that's one of the reasons why we keep having these, you know, increases and spikes. And it's hard. I mean, I don't want to, you know, just stay home. I want to go hug my family and be with them as much as anyone else. I think one of the new normals is going to have to be face coverings, just because that helps keep things down. I've been a fan of Japanese culture and animation for a long time. And I would see in both their TV shows and in the manga that they would wear face coverings, like if they had a cold, or sometimes if they just wanted to not be recognized.
Yes.
Or just to keep safe. And I think we need to adopt that kind of culture too, where we have face coverings. They don't have to be, you know, boring paper surgical masks. You can make some nice cloth face coverings, or even just, you know, bandanas. But I think that's going to be part of the new normal. I think handshakes are going to have to go away. And while we're a fairly touchy society, we're going to have to stop, you know, like hugging and handshaking, I think. I think that's possibly also why they bow in a lot of Asian cultures, is because that helps limit spread. A lot more virtual things. I mean, more people are going to work from home, which will actually improve traffic in this area. And because people are spending less money, you know, eating out or on gas or whatever, they more people might be able to actually afford a home. There's going to have to be a better accommodation as far as the internet is concerned. I mean, we're seeing the big disparity for income groups for access to the internet. And I mean, you have to have access to the internet in a time like this. This is like the best and easiest way to keep in contact with each other without coming in contact with each other. And a lot of poor communities just don't have the access to the internet. So they don't have access to school or to medical attention or resources like, you know, privileged people like myself have. And this is a problem. We need to definitely make the internet as much of a utility as, say, like light or water. Although I've learned that even, you know, some of the poor communities don't have as much access to water either, because they charge money for water and they'll shut it off at a moment's notice. So, I mean, internet has to become a public utility, and we need to be better with our public utilities about making sure that they're not so, you know, I'm going to say, you know, rich focused. Everyone should have clean water. Everyone should have access to internet. Yeah.
We need a different company beside Comcast. I cannot stand Comcast. Sorry, I have to say that. They drive me crazy. And on
I'm going to say that part of the problem is because we've been consolidating companies, that, once there are fewer companies, they feel like they can do whatever they want. And that's been part of our, our economic makeup is that, it's better to consolidate. I mean, I heard the other day that there are various sewer and electrical things that they're saying, well, small communities, they should consolidate their water and electricity, because then that way they could have, they can buy in bigger bulk and they can have, cheaper, more streamlined. I'm like, well, I can see that argument, but that's also how you get people who, charge too much and don't pay enough attention to their customers. And, you get these kind of monopolies. And they say, oh, well, we're not a monopoly, but really, they've carved up the territory. So even though there's many of them, they each have their own control of an area. And that part of, the consolidation of resources, I think is a problem. And it's one of the reasons why we as a country are having such a hard time with resources right now, is because we've outsourced, we've consolidated, and we've switched to just-in-time economics and producing. And so we don't have the backlog of things like, the personal protective equipment or medicine or some of the other things that we need to run in, an emergency like we're in now.
And I'm really surprised because I found some third world countries are more organized and have provided better for their residents and their citizens than us. And we're supposed to be a superpower. That really surprised me.
Well, I mean, part of one of the reasons why we've been able to have so much profit in the corporate world is because they have streamlined and made things so efficient that they don't need to have a lot of stuff on hand. And if you're not as efficient, like some of the third world countries, they have more stuff on hand. And so, I mean, that is money that's kind of just sitting there not being used, but it's also kind of a good savings, like in a bank or a credit union where, you have a reserve of things, and we don't have that reserve of things. And that's why one of the reasons why we're hurting right now is because we don't have the reserve. We've become too efficient in a lot of ways. And that efficiency is really hurting us. I mean, it's hurting us for like the meatpacking industry. I mean, because things are so streamlined, those places where people are getting sick, the farmers don't know where else to take their animals because, and so some of them are being euthanized. Whereas if there was a more diverse system, a little less efficient, then, there would be smaller slaughterhouses and more options for transportation to different ways and networks. So we're a little too efficient for our own good, unfortunately.
What have you learned about yourself during this pandemic?
Well, I mean, I've learned that I'm more social than I thought I was. I mean, I'm doing pretty well, I think. I mean, I know people who are actual extroverts, and they've had a very difficult time during the pandemic. And I've done okay because I have been more introverted and I'm more of a homebody. But I still miss getting hugs from my friends and family. I miss talking to them. The Zoom has helped a lot. There's lots of little Zoom meetups that we participate in. But really, it's just kind of touching and hanging out with other people. And it's been tough, and it's I've been trying to remember that it's tough for everybody and tougher for more people than it is for me. So I mean, just trying to figure out what to do and how to I don't know, it's been very tough. I know I've gained my COVID-19 and then some from stress eating and worrying about things. And I'm blessed. I've learned that I'm blessed, but sometimes that's not always as comforting as it should be.
Mm-hmm. Do you know anyone? Is anyone closely related to you who has suffered from the virus?
not closely related to me. A lady that we went to, we used to get couples massages on the regular because we are blessed. And one of our masseuses actually caught COVID, but she managed to get through it without being hospitalized, which is nice. But our families have been pretty much kind of locked down. I have a lot of relatives that live in the Midwest, so they're kind of in the middle of nowhere, and they don't have as much contact with other people, and that's been a blessing for them. I mean, granted, some of them are near places that have, like meat packing plants, like a, excuse me. My sister and brother-in-law live near Joplin, Missouri, which is a current hotspot because they have a meat packing plant, but they don't go there very often because they have other options for places to go.
Right.
But yeah, I worry about them because a lot of people in Middle America are not taking the same level of precautions as people in more dense areas are.
How do you feel about having to put a mask on your face every time you go out?
I feel it's something easy to do. I have made fabric masks, and they're kind of cute. So, I mean, you can really personalize it like another garment of clothing. I don't wear it like all the time when I'm out. I have it. But what I'll do is I got the, I don't like the over-the-ear kinds because my ears, they tend to pop off. So I made some tie ones, and so I'll take the top tie and I'll fit it to my face, and then I'll just kind of bring it forward. So like if I'm in the car or not near people, I don't have to be actually wearing the mask. I just, sanitize my hands before I adjust the mask, and then after I adjust the mask, so that, my hands aren't contaminating the mask. And then, yeah, I wear a mask out. I've learned as they are slowly opening things up that I want to have a spare mask on hand, because one day I had a couple of medical appointments, and just being out and interacting with people after having been inside for so long, I found myself kind of hyperventilating occasionally, which, I mean, the mask can kind of help with that, but also once the mask gets wet, it's not effective. And I was like, okay, I need to go home because I only have this mask, and if it gets wet, then, I'm not keeping other people safe. I'm not being safe. And wearing a mask is my personal responsibility to keep my germs to myself. And, if people want to be personally responsible, how hard is that? It's not hard.
Yeah, well, there are too many people, I think, that are still not taking this seriously.
I mean, it's something new. It's something different. People resist new and different, and I understand that. I think, they need to kind of back up and look at things from a different perspective. Not that it's being imposed on them, but that they are able to be personally responsible for not sharing whatever they have with other folks. And then by each of us taking our own personal responsibility, we can keep everybody safer.
Have you guys been tested?
We have not been tested. We haven't been sick. We haven't been out much. And we don't come in contact with very many people. So, I mean, there are folks who think that they have had it. I mean, I know there's a think I had it itis, but I don't think we have it. I don't think we have had it. We might get tested in a couple of weeks. We're actually going to go to my nephew's wedding in Nebraska, and we'll get tested beforehand to make sure we're not flying and actually carrying it. And then we will quarantine ourselves after we return for 2 weeks, just because we don't want to share anything either.
Yeah, because so many times you could have it and you don't know, and that's
exactly
dangerous.
Exactly.
Some people are resistant to it. I personally believe that if you've had the BCG shot, you have some resistance. That's just my own notion. I'm not a scientist. I have no evidence to support it.
Well, actually, you mentioned that the other day to me, and so Keith, who's super good at the internet, he looked up, there has been a preliminary study about that, but they did not find a significant difference between those who have and who have not had the BCG for whether they got it or not. But they did not do one about the severity. So it might be something where you get a milder case if you have the BCG shot.
Right.
They have not studied that yet. And so that's something that people could study.
Yeah,
I mean, not me, because I'm not a scientist either.
right. I'm looking forward to see what will, be published after the research has been complete, because I'm just noticing countries where the majority of the population have the shot, they've had less cases. Yeah. So Loretta, we're almost out of time, and I always like to ask my guests what they want to leave with people watching this interview. Anything you want to leave. It doesn't have to be about COVID.
Well, I mean, my big thing is to make sure that if you're able to vote, register to vote. Please vote. There are plenty of websites out there to help you get informed about the issues and the candidates. Sometimes the candidates will publish statements there. Yes, you have to take most things with a grain of salt and look at things, ask around there. But yeah, register to vote, study up a little bit, some of it's work, and vote. Please vote. Register to vote by mail if you can, or see if you can get a doctor's note for absentee if that's what your area requires. But I mean, democracy is important, and only when we all participate does it work the best. And so that's really what I want to leave with the viewers, is that democracy is important and we all need to participate. So please participate and be safe doing it, which is why, vote by mail or do absentee voting if you can.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that, because there may be people, like older people, who might not want to get out and join the lines, because I don't see COVID being gone before we have to vote.
I agree. And I mean, one of the things, since I tend to work at the polling places for the elections, is I still intend to do that, but I intend to have as much personal protective equipment as I can, make sure there's plenty of hand sanitizer, wash my hands frequently. I have at least one patriotic mask with, kind of Americana stuff on it, and I'll make sure that there's several others, because I love helping people vote, and I want people to vote, and some of them won't. They either won't know that they dropped off the rolls, or they won't know, or they'll have questions, and I want to be able to help those people. And yeah, I do encourage people to vote by mail if they can. I mean, vote in the comfort of your own home in your pajamas with a cup of coffee, perfect.
So if you want to vote from home, do you need to make a special request to get the vote sent to your house? And how do you do that if that's true?
It depends on what county you live in. There's or states. Some of the states actually send out your ballot. Santa Clara County mails out the ballot at this point, so you can vote by mail. Other places you have to apply 6 to 8 weeks in advance, so it's worth checking out now before November to make sure you get that solid. And double check again, maybe 8 weeks beforehand, just because there's computer errors and there's people trying to spin the rules for an assortment of reasons. And so check to make sure you're still registered and that you have signed up to vote either absentee, get a doctor's note if you need it. There's, I bet at free clinics you can probably get a note from a doctor if you're low income, and yeah, just try to vote remotely if you can by mail.
Loretta, it was fun. I really enjoyed this segment. I hope you did too.
It's interesting. I mean, I always feel a little, less than, because while, you say I'm smart, I know a lot of smart people. And so I only feel kind of
but
average.
You're one of the smart people.
Well, I am, but I mean, I try to remember that we are all smart and all talented in our own way. And so that's because I'm good at something doesn't mean that, you're good at something different. So yeah, everyone's got their oand talent and their own field of expertise.
Yes, and I think healthy people embrace each other's talents and they don't measure.
And it's
fair.
And it's tough to remember that, and remember that, just because someone else doesn't know something that you do, that they're not dumb. They just know something more about something you don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that we just need to celebrate each other's talents. I think that's what makes the world go round. Because if everybody only had your talents, we would be living in a lopsided world, right? So
Yeah, we
all
would.
need all of our gifts together to keep the world going.
Yes, it's our diversity that actually is our strength.
Exactly. There you go. Beautifully put. Well, Loretta, thank you so much for carving out time out of your busy day to spend with me doing this. And I really hope that people watching are going to get inspiration from you.
Well, I hope so too. I mean,
I'm sure they will.
All right.
So thank you, and thank you for watching Conversations with Jennylyn. When a conversation is all you need to be inspired, like the inspirational conversation you just listened to. And I will see you next time. Hold on.